Hello. I just wanted to share an experience that I had today that wasn't so much fun while I was in the midst of it, but thought, what can I learn from this experience? What can I share with others when dealing with life setbacks and setbacks that are not your daily kind, but kind of a big deal? So I was supposed to be on a podcast today and was going to be interviewed by Gabe Nelson of Solopreneur Money, and had spent a good amount of time preparing for this in terms of my content, in terms of all the tech stuff. He's using a special platform. It's called Squadcast and required me to use an external mic. It required me to check a whole bunch of points to make sure that the recording and everything else is going to be fine. So there was a little bit of a misunderstanding from his end. I was supposed to use AirPods to reduce the sound, and his assistant thought a mic, my Yeti mic here, fancy new Yeti mic, would have been enough. It wasn't, because a lot of sound was getting picked up, external noise. So I tried to pair these AirPods, grabbed my husband's AirPods, tried to pair them. Took us half an hour. We were not able to pair them. When we finally gave up, they popped up under Bluetooth as Robert's AirPods, and it all worked fine, but it was too long, too late. Fortunately, it was more on his end, his assistant's end in guiding me in the wrong direction. But nevertheless, here I am, and had to reschedule and have all this information all swirling in my mind, and am trying to make the most of it. I do have to say, in the midst of it, learning to go with the punches, roll with the punches, and stay calm, stay grounded, stay clear. I think it actually helped us to feel a little bit closer, develop a little bit more affinity for each other, just because of the way we dealt with this setback and these tech issues. It could be tech issues or any issues. I often talk to my clients, especially when they're parents and are so frustrated with their kids who are tripping up their routines, especially morning routines is a big deal. And I tell them, now that both of my kids are out of the house in one piece, let's hope it stays that way, that it was often these times of stress and things not going exactly how we want them to go, that these become memorable moments, and they feel supported, and they feel like all of their parts, their selves are accepted. And we're also teaching them, consciously teaching them, not how to fix it and be and fit the mold in society, but how to deal with these problems and issues that come up in life, and contribute to wherever they're going to be working, with whatever peer group, friend group, family group they're going to be at, to show how to stay grounded, stay clear, and be creative in solving problems. So the other thing I'm doing, being creative, making the most of this moment, is some people have asked me, what are you going to be talking about? And this podcast episode is probably not going to be out for a few months. And I thought to myself, goodness, I prepared so well for this. I don't want to lose this information. How can I record it and review it when we do reschedule, so I have it, and also share some of these real life tips with some of my students, my clients, or whoever is interested, just because it often can seem like life is for leaders, for healers, or even my mentor in the Digital Course Academy venue shared today in a podcast. There's often so much pressure on leaders or public personas or teachers or experts like her to appear perfect, to have this veneer, to present themselves in a certain way. And some of it is your natural demeanor, it's your persona. I am by nature perhaps a bit calmer now, than I used to be in my younger years. But I do believe there's a method and a process to that, kind of like a more mature tree. I have also worked on that rooting to be able to reap the benefits, to sow seeds, more seeds, see them grow, and also enjoy the fruit of my labor. So in any event, I want to share a little bit what I was going to talk about, just because I don't want to forget. Let me see how long. I'm just keeping track of time. Don't want to make this too long. I want to be able to remember what I plan to discuss with Gabe. The topic of my talk is clear your energy and boost your prosperity. And clear your energy is really about clearing your life energy. And the best way to think about this, without going into all the quantum physics and the metaphysics about energy, which is very fascinating and interesting in and of itself, I'm thinking just of life energy, and want to use simple metaphors and terms when I'm going to be talking about connecting to your true nature and your true energy, so that it becomes accessible. So more and more we're seeing in science and in maybe in the mental health field and in other places, how important a holistic mindset is. In medicine, you see that also. And holistic is not just, let me show you this model and grid I have, that's going to be used in my book, Soul Authority. It's not just about all the cycles and circles of influence, family of origin, your demographics, friendship, neighborhood, schoolwork, city, nation, ancestral patterns, world events, planetary events. That's all important, as we are not just individual um, organisms, not in a bigger ecosystem. That's all important. But I'm also thinking of holistic, like thinking in terms of yourself as an ecosystem, and needing to understand how your mind, your body, your heart, your soul, all um, influence and harmonize each other and are interconnected with each other. So if one is out of whack, the others will be out of whack. And that is a hard thing for us to conceptualize and track and assess. So I use the elements for this. Why is this important? I see so often that instead of using a holistic perspective, people use more of a top-down perspective. And a holistic perspective tends to be a little bit more bottom up and a little bit more round, and there's no beginning or end, or where the entry point is. So what is a top-down perspective? So often you hear, Amy mentioned this too, change your thoughts and you'll change your feelings. If you're triggered by a certain feeling, it could be self-sabotage, scarcity, fear, anxiety, depression, you're not good enough, lots of, anger, sad, whatever these unprocessed feelings are, which are emotions, it's actually energy in motion, life energy in motion. We tend to try to control these feelings, or guide these feelings, streamline them in a more aligned way, starting from the top down. Our minds are super powerful, super important, and we adopt a healthier mindset. Believe that once we say, hey, that's nonsense, you're great, this and that, look at, whatever, shift the thinking, then our feelings will change, our behaviors will change, and we are able to set that part aside. Now, sometimes that does help and it sticks around for a while, but often what we see is what I call at every level a new devil, what she calls the uphill battle of entrepreneurs, or when you're your own boss. But it's really it happens with everybody who expands, because what really happens is this is the oppressive karma. This is the pressure from society of how to mold you, how to have you fit in. And this is your liberating Dharma path. This is what we do to liberate ourselves, the actions and things and thoughts that we need to adopt and really ground to expand. What often happens is when we expand, we bump into that part of ourselves that we ignored or tried to minimize and diminish by these more helpful thoughts. We keep on running into it when that part, that energy packet that is actually a treasure chest that's unopened, has not been fully digested, has not been fully unpacked. So what I do that is a little bit different, and that other people might actually also get to, and they're just not using the words and articulate in the way I am, but the way she describes it, like journaling, talking about your feelings, talking, connecting with other people, can all be very healing. The methods that I use, though, using air, fire, earth, and water, is making that inner space within ourselves, this healing space, a habit, so that instead of streamlining yourself and sort of using a cookie cutter approach to how to be and how to present yourself and sort of be this good person and see that as bad and sabotaging, you're seeing yourself as an expanding sanctuary and an ecosystem, and you are embracing all of your energy, your mind, your heart, your body, your soul, energy, meaning also what's going on, it's getting triggered, even if it looks like it's disruptive or trying to sabotage you. You're more curious and you're seeing things in a holistic mindset, kind of like a tree where the above and the below of the tree are not seen as opposites, where when the leaves compost and die, or you're going through the seasons, is not necessarily seen as a bad thing. You're not just growing linearly from bottom of the ladder to the top in terms of your success. Yes, the tree grows in that direction, but you reach a certain maturity where you stop and you are more interested in becoming sort of like this mother tree in the rainforest, where you're expanding and you go deeper, wider, richer, and you become the source, this ecosystem that feeds so many other systems underground, above the ground, not just fruit and oxygen as we're thinking as humans, but so many important systems, cycling water, cycling air, cycling nutrients into, ecosystems, from fungus to insects to creatures and flowers and bees and the whole shebang. So you kind of get where I'm going. We tend to think in polarized ways, from going from A to B, and our prosperity or flow of energy hits a bump because we tend to want to get away from parts of ourselves, see this as bad, and think of that as good. So often you might have noticed this in your own life, and you're thinking of, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be seen or heard or sound foolish, because that is associated with being a failure. You don't want to be mocked or judged, or people not liking you or rejecting you, because that is maybe triggering feelings of low self-worth, or maybe even self-loathing. You might run into your own limitations, thinking you can't do that, comparing yourself to others because you're not good enough, not something enough, smart enough, pretty enough, rich enough, talented enough, you name it. So these are these splits that we've made, and we are trying to get away with what we don't like to become this other thing. And then we think, when I do that, achieve that, then I have healed. And that backfires, because underneath that is the energy, underneath that is the emotion and the hurt and the anger and all of those feelings, often stemming from a series of interactions that we've had with people in our lives that have brainwashed us to think on those terms and judge ourselves based on these very finite and very diminished ways of objectifying our worth. And so why doing the opposite or overcompensating will only work so far, so long. You can kind of memorize the road memories, and people say like fake it till you make it, like, really try to like ground it in the body to discipline and ritual and routine. Well, what you are doing is putting an imprint, an energetic overriding the original imprint, blueprint, and imposing some kind of other functional imprint on it. And this is kind of what I tend to say. We can outsmart mystery, or the mental disorder is often a healthy and natural byproduct of greater spiritual order and alignment. And this spiritual order and alignment is really what's aligned with prosperity and with all the cycles in nature and the earth. It's kind of a closed system where the open systems in it, sort of kind of like organs in a body. We each organ is it's pretty contained but open, and communicating to other organs and other parts of ourselves to maintain the whole. So it's a really delicate balance to see how to maintain each ecosystem in harmony within itself, not too open, not too closed, making sure that you're healthy and doing what's needed. And I'll take you around the cycle to give you a better understanding what's needed, so that the whole system also functions in the most optimal way. So things that we want to ignore, sort of like if you use the body metaphor, oh, that's, that little thing on my ear, my finger, my toe, and think it's not, if you have symptoms there, it's not affecting the whole system. You can only ignore it for so long. It will catch up with you. On the other physical realm, what often happens when we're working so hard, would be regular indication and signs that get ignored. So such as like, I need to go to the bathroom, or I am hungry, or I'm tired, I need to sleep, I need to take a break. So that is not being in total alignment, or it has to do with ignoring the fear, the lack of self confidence, the not good enough, the not grounding enough, whatever thing is preventing us to really remain grounded and support the whole system so that it becomes a sustainable process. When that's overlooked, it will show up somewhere else as a symptom, as an irritation, a frustration, a trigger, a physical disease, or something of that nature. So to really now try to do things based on this wisdom, on this earth wisdom, this nature wisdom, and also even honoring our own body, because our body does this all the time. Think of it as trying to grow a seed or new plant. So we need to clear, if this is in our mind, the limitations are in our minds. Think of clearing the seed from any limited beliefs of scarcity thoughts and fears of that you're not good enough, you can't, just because you're just a seed versus a fully grown tree or something else you're comparing yourself to. Everybody started off as a seed. So you're clearing your mindset, you're coming into acceptance that you can do it, but it takes a growth process. So once you have cleared the mind, then it's tuning into that fire, that passion, that energy that wants to burst out and grow. And sometimes people get there and they're really excited and they're really like, okay, I found my passion. How I know what to do. This is what I really want to do. And I'm really, get lit up by, and so on and so forth. That is sort of like you detecting the sun. Why that is also not good enough is because you run into the oppressive patterns. So it might just be like, oh, I'm so excited about this thing, but you need to use that energy to go directly into all of these oppressive thoughts that you're trying to change, not just like put that down, ignore it, and exercise the opposite thought. Like, let's say you're not smart enough, you're good enough. Yes, I am smart enough, I'm good enough. No, you need to actually go back to the painful thing that is sticking into your energy field. Maybe a parent saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe, you are getting such terrible grades. Your friend Susie is so much smarter, such a, better student at you, and so much more dedicated, or whatever. You need to go into each of these scenarios and see where that part of yourself shut down and did not trust your anger, your heat, your fever. That is the fire element, where you may have been, who knows, shamed, abused, punished, and experienced some really negative repercussions. And that could be, not just in interactions with mom or dad, but with school, teachers, with your first lovers, with important people such as bosses, mentors, with maybe clubs and organizations where you were shamed or stood out. Could be just what you're seeing on the media and think the masses are doing and you're just so odd. Could be in terms of more national, cultural, race and ethnic demographic stuff, gender, and could be on a planetary world level, could be, something like even intergenerational that you can't really put your finger on, but that, number of people in your generations have struggled with in terms of oppression and thinking they're not good enough. So it really requires you to use that heat, that anger, to alchemize, to break this down so that you really can compost it and make your earth more fertile, not just force yourself into the opposite habit. Here's where I see a lot of people struggling way too hard, using way too much energy to fight against this, what they think is a feeling, but it's an energy pattern, it's an imprint that they have adopted. And so if you're just going against that blueprint rather than really transforming that blueprint, it will only work for so long. It won't be sustainable. You will burn out again. So what I help my clients do is really break that down, kind of compost, digest, metabolize, like what you do with your own food every day, so that it really becomes fuel for your growth, for these cycles. It becomes a whole cycle of what you take in, your respiration, what you do, your movement, your heat, your heart, staying alive, breaking it down. This food then becomes fuel, and this fuel is moved through your whole body through water, through your blood, and all these different fluids that are just amazing, especially in helping you detect your emotions. If you don't think of your tears, your sweat, your blood level, your sexual fluids, like it's all energy moving through you. And through the movement of energy, you're having a better sense of what this energy is, with the help of water, which is more easily detectable perhaps for us to interpret the emotion, and based on the emotion then we readjust and find our balance. And that balance is not just good bad, even though that serves a purpose. It does serve a purpose in terms of using that gauge, but it's more complex, it's more mysterious, it's more of a harmony that you're trying to maintain, as you see on earth with each of the elements, staying in harmony and keeping us on track. So earth is more like, it's not moving anywhere, it's just keeping this cycle of prosperity and growth and consciousness alive. So it keeps on moving in this dynamic wholeness, yet it's transforming all the lower densities and all what's not aligned on a continuous basis. So it's amazing in terms of what dies and what's lying on earth, and it gets broken down by fungus and algae and taken into the earth, into the minerals, and when water streams in places where you have very human pollution and interaction. It's amazing that this is the most purified and just healthiest, clearest water. how is that possible? That is Earth doing that. That's our bodies able to be able to do that, if it weren't for all the poisons and things we put on it in it on a daily basis, including our minds. And our minds are super, super powerful, believe it or not. I see lots of people on medications, using herbs, using all kinds of stuff. And while those are very supportive and can help in so many ways, they can also have side effects. And the mind can come in and interject, and there's certain kind of thought you can have that just messes with that whole thing, and just shows how powerful it is. And I do this all in trance, so people themselves, not just me, but they learn to track and tune into all of these systems. So anyway, clearing energy. So what does that mean? Clearing all the man-made, artificial, imposed, oppressive, linear, static, not holistic ways of thinking, ways of operating, ways of wanting to get by, ways of wanting to cheat, sort of nature, the system, getting ahead of where you're at, not wanting to grow, not wanting to acknowledge what kinds of grit and grind you need to go through as you ground, as you really break down and look at what isn't working, sort of get a little bit mentally disordered to get things in a greater spiritual order, not wanting to do that work. I so often hear, I am doing the work, but what kind of work are you doing? Are you doing the work that is really going to sustain and help your flow and help you flourish in a way that is sustainable? And it's not that you're not going to bump into what I call these pearls of jewels. My teacher calls it pearls of string of pearls. She calls it it's a string of jewels. I feel like it is a treasure chest. When we get to each new level, there is sort of a devil there. It's scary, especially if you don't know how to approach it. But when you do, it's really sort of trusting yourself and open up these deep feelings and looking at the level of oppression. Like I said, it could be from my end. I went through the whole a set of layers and even got to past life stuff, and many of my clients do. There's a whole string of imprints and energetic stuff that can sort of come in as you're born into this new body and life. But there's no need to go into all that or believe that. There's enough to do as you just go through the family of origin, school, friends, middle school, high school, and just see where certain patterns have these undigested little clumps or pitfalls or blocks, and you keep stumbling over them. And so by really not being afraid of this, or also not thinking I'm just going to avoid it, why? You're going to keep bumping into. It's your energy, something about you that you can really unpack. Then it can really become this beautiful string. And why I call a string of pearls or jewels, kind of like this, because they each have the stories. You can go into so many of them, and you'll find some kind of story that is gonna make sense to people. For example, for me, not being heard and seen, it kept on coming up, not just with me as a child dealing with political censorship, then as an adolescent dealing with selective mutism, not wanting to talk to anybody and pretending I did not speak English, thinking that I could get away with that. This was after my family moved to the United States after a revolution. And all of this was really traumatic, as well as moving to the US. Then I had a second language anxiety and just public speaking terror, where whenever I was sort of put in front of a class or something, it's hard to believe that based on how much I can yak now, but I mean, not yak, but yap, sorry. But yeah, I would get teased for using wrong words, learning English at 13 and 14. And so I was terrified of making these kinds of mistakes. And it wasn't until I needed to talk about my book in my 40s that I needed to confront it, and saw how much it was holding me back. And it's still, holding me back in some ways, where I don't feel comfortable doing live. And I want to do live videos and sell my courses and deal with techie and all of, my biggest fears coming into a head. And it can hold me back. It held me back for a few years thinking, I don't need to do that. That's not for me. But I see that it's directly linked to me finding my jewels, my power when I go into that and really confront it. Because when I apply the techniques that I've learned and I teach in confronting that, I can show others that they can do it. And it's little by little and step by step um, that we can sit with these feelings. I'm feeling already so much more of the turning over right away, the digestion, the seeds and the potential. While in the past, I would feel way more burdened by the terror and fear of this. But it's by doing this over and over again that this more quickly switches over, and I already have the new imprints knowing how this is going to turn out. So it does get easier the more you do it. So anyway, that is what I was going to be talking about, the place where most people get stuck, and I feel can do more, learn more, how to shift their mindset, yes, but shift it to a holistic mindset, so they understand what to do when they get to this little hiccup, this snag, and want to run away from the hard work. It's not just light understanding of your problem that is enough. It's the really the heat, the alchemizing, the breaking it down, and sort of reinventing, recreating, realigning yourself, your energy, this greater spiritual order that is going to, really help you. Yes, you might bump into another level, but you won't have holes in all these levels. You won't have a crack. You won't have this bottomless pit that you keep falling into. They have been sealed up, and they provide the foundation, as I'm finding now, for the next level, making it easier. It's just like going to kindergarten and elementary school, like middle school, high school, college, graduate school. And if you cheated, or if you didn't want to learn a certain lesson that was key in each of these levels, yes, you're going to learn new things and going to feel like a freshman each time you're in this new level. But if you really did not learn what you needed to learn and get these foundational principles under your belt, you're going to struggle a lot more. And you're going, when you fall and trip up, as we all do, you're going to really tumble into that crack and maybe be too scared to even try it again. So that's what I see, and that's what I teach. Do seal each of these cracks up and become the strongest that you can be, and have fun along the journey. Know what you're doing, know what's happening, so it's not so scary. Okay, so it's just a reframe on the anxiety, depression, the what is it called? The imposter syndrome that many people talk about. Many of my clients, they're experts in their field, they're even PhDs, deal with this, and I help them really reframe and heal this. And yes, I do see the results. When people say the inner critic, the imposter syndrome, you'll never heal from it. Yes and no. Yes, you'll have those little things, that patterns that will come up, but healing in terms of you no longer falling in this wide crack here that is going all the way in, it is possible to seal that up with practices and new skills. So that's what I was going to talk about. I hope it's helpful in terms of understanding prosperity, what we're trying to do on a material level, to do the deeper work, to do the harder work on the energetic, emotional level. Emotion is energy in motion. So do that so that it provides the foundation for your life. Take good care. Bye.